"It hurts. Let's try again tonight," the virgin bride whispered, and the Apache's patience changed. Human settlers had arrived here only a decade ago, but already their colony struggled against the harshness of this frontier world. Life was hard, unpredictable, and often unforgiving. Machines broke, crops failed, and storms tore across the plains without warning. But humans, stubborn as they were, refused to give up. Leora Keene adjusted the straps of her tool belt and squinted at the horizon. She was small, even by human standards, but her hands were steady and her mind sharp. Today, she had been assigned to the Northern Terraforming Station, the one responsible for filtering the air and maintaining the delicate balance of oxygen. It had been failing intermittently, causing panic among the settlers. Leora's shuttle landed with a gentle hum on the red dust. The station looked abandoned, its towers half covered in rust and sand. She stepped down, her boots crunching against the hardened soil. A gust of wind swept through, carrying with it a strange, earthy smell. She inhaled cautiously, checking her equipment. "All right, Leora," she muttered to herself. "Let's see what's wrong this time." As she approached the station, movement caught her eye. A figure stood at the edge of the dust plain, tall and broad-shouldered. Leora froze. Humans didn't usually come this far alone. Whoever or whatever this was, they weren't human. The figure stepped closer, revealing armor-like skin that glistened under the sun. Its eyes were deep and dark, intelligent and wary. Leora's heart raced. This was the first time she had seen one of the nomadic tribal aliens known as the Tarkin in person. Stories about them were everywhere, brave, fierce, and rarely willing to trust outsiders. "I come in peace," Leora called out, raising her hands to show she carried no weapon. The alien's expression did not change. It was silent for a long moment, studying her, weighing her intentions. Finally, it spoke in a low, melodic voice. "You should not be here. I'm here to fix the air system. It's failing," Leora explained. "People could get hurt if it stops completely." The alien tilted its head. Its gaze was sharp, almost piercing. "You are fragile. This world is not forgiving. Why should I help you?" Leora swallowed. The challenge in its voice was clear, but she refused to show fear. "Because humans adapt," she said. "We find ways to survive even when things seem impossible, and we don't give up." For a long moment the alien studied her. Then it turned and walked toward the station, gesturing for her to follow. Leora took a deep breath and ran to keep up. Inside, the station was a mess. Sparks flew from broken circuits, and dust hung thick in the air. Leora's eyes widened. Whoever had left this place had done so in a hurry. She set down her tools and began checking the systems, her hands moving with precision and speed. "You work fast," the alien said, crouching beside her. "I have to," Leora replied. "If the station fails completely, people could die. I don't get the luxury of moving slowly." The alien made a low, humming sound, a noise that Leora suspected was a mixture of curiosity and amusement. "Humans are stubborn," it said. "You fight even when the odds are against you." Leora smiled faintly. "That's what makes us human." For hours she worked, repairing circuits, recalibrating sensors, and rerouting power. The alien watched silently, occasionally offering advice on the environment outside, how the wind patterns affected energy distribution, how the dust could corrode sensitive parts. Slowly, Leora realized that while the alien seemed fierce and indifferent, it had a knowledge of this world far beyond hers. By late afternoon, a sudden alarm blared. Leora froze. The main oxygen filter was shutting down, sparks flying dangerously close to the central console. She dove forward, rerouting the backup systems in a flurry of motion. "You can do this," the alien whispered, a strange intensity in its voice. Leora's hands worked faster, her mind focused. The sparks fizzled, the alarm stopped, and the system hummed steadily. She exhaled, shaking but triumphant. "It's done," she said. The alien nodded slowly, its expression unreadable. "You do not give up. You try again even when it hurts." Leora laughed softly, though her hands still trembled. That's what we do. The sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Leora packed her tools and the alien stood beside her, silent but no longer hostile. Tomorrow, we check the southern turbines, the alien said. I'll be ready, Leora replied, feeling a spark of determination. She realized that this world was harsh and the Tarkin were cautious, but she had begun to earn their respect, not through force but through persistence, intelligence, and courage. As she looked out over the red plains, she whispered to herself, "It hurts, but we'll try again tonight." The alien's gaze softened slightly. For the first time, Leora saw patience in its eyes, patience that had been tested and now, perhaps, was beginning to change. For the humans of the colony, survival was not just about technology. It was about persistence, ingenuity, and the courage to face worlds that could break you. And Leora, small and fragile as she might seem, was a living proof that humans could endure, even thrive, where others faltered. As night fell, the wind swept across the plains, carrying dust and secrets from the planet's surface. Leora and the alien stood together, a fragile alliance forming in the twilight. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, and new opportunities, but tonight they had survived. Tonight hope had returned. And for the Tarkin watching, a lesson was beginning to take root. Humans might be fragile, but they were relentless. Morning on the red plains came slowly, with a chill in the wind that made Leora shiver. The pale orange sun had not yet risen, but the sky was turning the soft colors of dawn. Leora tightened her tool belt, checking her equipment one more time. Today, she was heading to the southern turbines, the ones that powered the lower sections of the colony's air systems. The alien Corrin waited silently outside her shuttle. His armor-like skin reflected the weak sunlight, and his posture was alert, ready for anything. He did not speak much, but Leora had learned to read his gestures. Today, he was tense. The southern turbines were far more dangerous, lying in a stretch of land prone to sudden storms and shifting sands. "Ready?" he asked finally, his voice calm but firm. Leora nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." The journey was difficult from the start. Winds whipped across the plains, lifting dust into clouds that stung their eyes. Leora held onto the shuttle handles, trying to keep her balance, while Corrin moved like a shadow beside her, unafraid of the wind and debris. It was strange to see someone or something so connected to the land as if it were part of them. Humans were clumsy by comparison, constantly fighting the environment rather than moving with it. When they arrived at the southern turbines, the damage was worse than Leora expected. The largest turbine had a broken rotor, and the control panels were scorched from electrical surges. Sparks still flickered from exposed circuits. Leora's stomach tightened. She had repaired systems before, but this was something different. "Let's begin," she said, kneeling beside the turbine and pulling out her tools. Corrin crouched next to her, observing. "The storm will come soon," he warned. "It is stronger than last night's winds." "I know," Leora replied. "We don't have much time." She began working, carefully reconnecting circuits and rerouting power. Her hands moved quickly but precisely, guided by both experience and instinct. Sparks flew occasionally, and the wind threatened to blow her off balance, but she persisted. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, casting a harsh light over the desert-like landscape. Leora's arms ached, her fingers were cut from metal edges, and her face was streaked with dust and sweat. Yet she did not stop. She could feel Corrin's eyes on her, measuring her determination. Humans were fragile in appearance, he thought, but there was something unyielding in their spirit. Suddenly, the ground shook. A low rumble spread through the plain, and Leora stumbled. Corrin's hand shot out to steady her. "What now?" she gasped. "The quake is coming from the canyon," Corrin said, pointing to the distant cracks in the earth. "It is not stable. Stay close to me." Before she could respond, a small landslide erupted nearby, sending rocks tumbling toward them. Leora ducked instinctively, but a jagged stone grazed her shoulder, tearing her sleeve and leaving a shallow cut. Pain shot through her arm, but she ignored it. She had no time to stop now. Corin extended a hand. "You must move." Together they navigated the treacherous terrain, dodging falling rocks and unstable ground. Leora's mind worked fast, thinking of solutions while avoiding danger. When they reached the turbine again, she breathed hard, heart racing. "We cannot stop," she said, her voice tight. "The colony needs this working." Corin studied her. "Even when it hurts, you try again," he murmured. Leora nodded. "That's what humans do." With renewed focus, she climbed back onto the turbine platform. Corin stayed close, helping her reach difficult angles and holding panels steady in the wind. Together, they worked, combining human creativity with alien strength and knowledge of the environment. By midday, they had made significant progress. The largest turbine was beginning to hum with power again, and the control panels flickered to life. Leora wiped sweat from her brow and smiled faintly. "Almost there," she said. Corin's eyes softened slightly. "You do not give up. You continue, even when the land fights you." Their relief was short-lived. A sudden storm approached from the west, dark clouds rolling in faster than expected. Lightning split the sky, and a strong wind blew across the turbines, rattling the metal framework. Leora held onto a support beam, her tools clattering to the ground. "We must finish quickly," Corin warned. Leora bit her lip, her mind racing. She could feel the storm growing stronger, but abandoning the turbine now would mean disaster for the colony. Taking a deep breath, she focused, ignoring fear and pain. She reconnected the final circuits, rerouted the main power lines, and finally pressed the override button. The turbine roared to life, its blades spinning steadily despite the wind. The alarm system silenced, and the storm, while still dangerous, was no longer threatening the station's immediate function. Leora slumped against the turbine, exhausted but triumphant. Corin approached her, his steps careful on the shaking platform. "You have done well," he said simply. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted, glancing at him. You understand this land in a way I never will." Corin's expression was unreadable for a moment. Then he nodded. "And you understand what it means to endure. Humans are strange creatures. You are weak yet strong, fragile yet relentless." Leora laughed softly, despite the storm still raging around them. "I suppose that's a compliment." As the wind died down in the afternoon, they surveyed the repaired turbines. The southern sector was stabilizing, and soon the colony would have a reliable air supply again. Leora felt a surge of pride. She had faced danger, pain, and exhaustion, and yet she had succeeded. But the trials were not over. On the horizon, she noticed dark shapes moving, creatures native to the planet, drawn by the vibrations of the turbines. They were large, quadrupedal, with tough armored hides and glowing eyes. They had been harmless until now, but desperate or curious, they could become dangerous. "Corin, look!" Leora shouted, pointing. The alien's eyes narrowed. "Stay close to me. They test us, but we can defend the station if needed." The creatures moved closer, their steps purposeful. Leora's mind raced. She had no weapon stronger than her tools, but she refused to panic. Humans had survived countless dangers through ingenuity, and she would do the same here. She quickly rigged a series of warning lights and sonic alarms, using the turbine's backup power. The creatures paused at the sudden noise and bright flashes, confused. "They are intelligent," Corin said, "but not beyond being frightened." Leora nodded. "We can keep them at a distance." For hours they worked together, reinforcing barriers and monitoring the creatures' movements. By evening, the threat had diminished. Exhausted, Leora leaned against the turbine once more, breathing hard. Corin crouched beside her, his gaze scanning the horizon for any remaining dangers. "You did not give up," he said again. "Even when it hurt, you tried again." Leora smiled faintly, her shoulder aching from the earlier injury. "I told you humans endure. We may be fragile, but we are relentless." Corin studied her in silence. For the first time, he seemed thoughtful rather than merely cautious. The human's resilience was different from anything he had encountered in his own tribe. There was strength not just in muscle or instinct, but in persistence, creativity, and hope. As night fell, the storm cleared, leaving the plains bathed in the light of twin moons. Leora sat with Corin on the turbine platform, looking out over the vast red landscape. She knew there would be more challenges tomorrow, bigger storms, more dangerous creatures, and failures she could not yet imagine. But tonight, they had survived. Tonight, humans had shown their strength once more. And for Corin, watching the small but determined human, a change was occurring. Patience, he realized, was not just about waiting. It was about recognizing effort, determination, and the courage to try again, even when every obstacle seemed insurmountable. Leora whispered into the night air, almost to herself, "It hurts, but we'll try again tomorrow." And in the silence that followed, the alien nodded quietly. For the first time, he truly believed humans could endure, adapt, and thrive, no matter how harsh the world around them. The morning sun bathed the red plains in soft golden light, and Leora could feel a new kind of excitement stirring in her chest. Yesterday's success with the southern turbines had boosted her confidence, but today, the stakes were higher. Strange signals had been detected from a canyon not far from the turbines, a faint hum of energy that could not be explained by natural causes. Corin crouched at the edge of the canyon, his eyes scanning the rocky walls. "The source is below," he said. "It is ancient. Many in my tribe avoid this place. It is dangerous." Leora adjusted her backpack, filled with tools and sensors. "Dangerous can also mean important," she said. "If it's affecting the planet's systems, we need to understand it." Corin's gaze softened. He had begun to respect her stubbornness. Humans were fragile, yes, but they had a determination that few species possessed. And Leora's determination was unmatched. They descended carefully into the canyon. The wind howled through the jagged cliffs, carrying dust that stung Leora's eyes. The walls were steep and uneven, and loose rocks crumbled underfoot. Corin led the way, his knowledge of the terrain invaluable. Leora followed closely, her hands gripping the rock surfaces and adjusting her footing with care. After hours of careful climbing, they reached the canyon floor. There, half buried in sand and rubble, were the ruins of a structure unlike anything Leora had seen. Smooth stone walls curved in impossible shapes, etched with intricate designs that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Strange symbols, neither human nor Tarkin, covered the walls. "Ancient," Corin whispered, "very old, perhaps older than the first colonies." Leora's eyes widened. "And powerful," she said. "The signal is coming from here. There must be technology hidden inside." They approached the entrance, a wide archway carved into the stone. Leora scanned the symbols with her handheld device. It beeped in excitement, confirming her suspicion. The ruins contained advanced energy systems that were still active, though partially dormant. "This is incredible," she said, her voice trembling. "If we can understand this technology, it could stabilize the entire planet." Corin watched her carefully. "But it is dangerous. Many traps, many protections. The builders wanted to keep intruders out." Leora grinned, excitement overcoming fear. "Then we'll just have to be careful. We've handled danger before, haven't we?" Corin gave a small nod. "Yes, but this is different." The interior of the ruins was cooler and darker than the sunlit canyon outside. Shadows stretched across curved walls, and the faint hum of energy grew louder as they ventured deeper. Strange glyphs glowed on the floor, pulsing in rhythm with an unseen source. Leora crouched to examine them. "It's a pattern, a sequence. If I can trace it correctly, it might reveal a pathway to the main chamber." Corin raised an eyebrow. "A human reads the symbols," Leora smiled. "We read patterns, Corin, that's how we survive." Step by step, they followed the sequence. Pressure plates triggered faint lights, walls shifted slightly, and small mechanical clicks echoed in the corridors. Leora used her tools to disable minor traps, while Corin's instincts allowed him to detect dangerous shifts in the floor or hidden dangers in the walls. Finally, they reached a massive chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. In the center, a structure pulsed with blue light, connected to a network of conduits running into the walls. The source of the energy signal lay before them, and it was breathtaking. Leora ran her hands over the conduits. This could supply the colony with unlimited energy. If we can integrate it with the turbines, we could stabilize the entire air system, maybe even terraform the planet faster. Corin circled the chamber. The builders did not intend for anyone to touch it. It will test us. Not just strength, but cleverness, endurance, and caution. Leora nodded. Then we'll pass the test. The chamber's first puzzle revealed itself almost immediately. A panel of symbols glowed on a console, each one representing energy flows within the ruins. Pressing them in the wrong sequence triggered alarms and defensive mechanisms, jets of gas, shifting walls, and sudden floor changes. Leora studied the sequence carefully, her mind moving fast. "Watch for patterns," she said to Corin. "The lights pulse in a rhythm, that's the key." Corin observed silently, following her movements. He had seen humans adapt to impossible odds, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. Leora's patience, precision, and creativity were remarkable. Hours passed as they worked through the sequence. Leora mapped symbols to energy flows, rerouted power using her tools, and used Corin's insight into spatial awareness to avoid traps. At one point, a sudden spike in energy threw sparks across the floor. Leora dove to the side, narrowly avoiding a dangerous arc of electricity. Corin's hand shot out, steadying her once more. "You endure," Corin said softly, almost in admiration. "I have to," Leora replied. "If humans give up now, everyone in the colony suffers." Finally, the final panel clicked into place. A deep hum resonated through the chamber, and the central structure pulsed brighter than ever before. Energy flowed through the conduits, stabilizing the network. The ruins seemed to awaken, responding to their presence and cooperation. Leora exhaled, relief and excitement flooding her. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." Corin looked at her, expression unreadable. Then slowly he nodded. "Humans are strange," he said. "So fragile, yet capable of great endurance. They continue, even when everything would break them." As they explored further, they discovered more wonders. Rooms filled with holographic maps of the planet, chambers storing ancient tools, and inscriptions that hinted at the civilization that once thrived here. Leora's mind raced with possibilities. The knowledge stored here could transform the colony, making humans stronger and more capable than ever. But the ruins also tested them. Sudden environmental shifts, a burst of heat, a surge of energy, walls closing slightly, kept them on edge. Each challenge required teamwork. Leora's quick thinking and engineering skills complemented Corin's intuition and survival instincts. They learned from each other, adapting and overcoming. By evening, they reached the deepest chamber. The hum of energy was nearly deafening, but it was steady now, controlled. Leora's fingers danced over the central console, rerouting flows, stabilizing the network. Corin stood beside her, guarding against any unexpected dangers. "You have patience and cleverness," Corin said finally. "This chamber recognizes effort. You are worthy." Leora smiled, exhausted but proud. "We both did it," she said. "Human ingenuity and your experience." Together, the chamber pulsed one final time, sending a wave of energy through the ruins. The air outside shifted subtly, cleaner and more stable. Leora realized that even the surrounding landscape seemed calmer, as if the planet itself acknowledged their success. "We should return to the colony," Corin said. "The energy can be integrated with the turbines there. The humans will benefit immediately." Leora nodded, taking one last look at the ruins. "Tomorrow, we start integration." But today we discovered that humans can face anything, even ruins older than we are, even dangers no one else would survive. As they climbed out of the canyon, the twin moons rose above the plains, casting a silver glow over the red dust. Leora's body ached from hours of work, but her heart soared. She had faced unknown dangers, solved impossible puzzles, and survived against the odds. Corin walked beside her silently. For the first time, he felt something unfamiliar: trust in humans. They were unpredictable, yes, fragile in appearance, but unstoppable when determined. And Leora was the living proof. The wind carried the faint hum of the ruins behind them, a reminder of the power they had discovered. Leora whispered almost to herself, "It hurts, but we'll try again tomorrow." Corin glanced at her and allowed a small nod. In his tribe, patience was earned, not given. And now he had learned that humans earned it through persistence, creativity, and courage. The journey back to the colony was long, but hope had returned. Humans were not just survivors. They were builders, thinkers, and fighters. And the Tarkin warrior beside her understood that patience was not just about waiting. It was about recognizing effort, determination, and the courage to try again. For the first time, Leora felt that the colony might not just survive, but thrive. The sky over the colony was pale and bright, streaked with orange and red clouds. The wind carried a faint metallic tang, a reminder of the planet's harshness. Leora stood at the edge of the northern turbine station, her tools packed and ready, her heart pounding with anticipation. Today, she would begin integrating the ancient technology from the ruins into the colony's failing systems. Corin stood beside her, his posture alert. "The planet tests all who dwell here," he said. "The integration may work, or it may awaken forces you cannot control." Leora nodded. "I know, but we have to try. If we succeed, the colony can survive the storms, the winds, the dust. If we fail—" She didn't finish the sentence, but the fear of failure hung in the air. They entered the northern turbine station together. Machines hummed weakly, blinking with warning signals. Leora took a deep breath, her fingers tracing the controls. The energy conduits from the ruins had been modified to fit human systems, but connecting them to the turbines required precision, timing, and careful calculation. One mistake could overload the network, damaging the turbines and endangering the colony. Corin watched silently, noting Leora's careful movements. Humans were fragile in appearance, but their minds could adapt to the most complex challenges. He had seen it before in the canyon. Now he saw it again in the hum of machines and the glow of circuits under her hands. "Ready?" he asked. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied. Step by step, Leora connected the conduits. Sparks flew occasionally and warning lights flashed, but she stayed calm, recalculating and rerouting as needed. Corin assisted where he could, using his strength and knowledge of structural stability to hold panels and secure connections. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, casting harsh shadows across the station. Leora's arms ached, her back stiffened, and sweat streaked her dusty face, but she refused to stop. The energy from the ruins pulsed through the conduits, flowing into the turbines, and she could feel the systems beginning to stabilize. Then a sudden surge of energy rippled through the station. Sparks leapt from the panels and alarms blared. Leora froze for a split second, her mind racing. "Corin," she shouted. He grabbed her arm. "Step back, the energy is unstable," but Leora shook her head. "No. We can control it. We just need to reroute the main flow." She worked quickly, adjusting circuits, opening manual valves, and guiding the energy through safer conduits. Corin assisted, stabilizing the structure and protecting her from sparks. Together, human ingenuity and alien instinct worked in tandem, balancing danger and precision. After what felt like hours, the surge stabilized. The turbines hummed steadily, energy flowing smoothly. Leora exhaled, exhaustion and relief washing over her. "We did it," she said, her voice trembling. The turbines are stable. Corin nodded slowly, his eyes softening. You endure, you adapt. Humans are strange creatures, fragile yet unstoppable. But the success was short-lived. Outside the station, dark clouds gathered rapidly. The planet was not finished testing them. Wind whipped across the plains, tearing dust and debris into the air. Leora could see lightning in the distance, and the warning signals from the station blinked urgently. "The storm," she muttered. "It's coming faster than predicted." Corin's posture stiffened. "We must secure the turbines and protect the colony. The storm will not forgive mistakes." They worked quickly, reinforcing turbine supports, securing external conduits, and activating emergency protocols. Leora's mind raced, calculating energy flows and structural weaknesses. Corin moved with precision, using his instincts to brace panels and redirect debris away from critical areas. The storm hit with a ferocity neither of them had anticipated. Winds tore across the plains, sending sheets of dust and rocks flying. The turbines groaned under the pressure and sparks leapt dangerously from exposed conduits. Leora held onto a support beam, guiding energy flows with one hand and using her tools with the other. "Corin, the main conduit is overloading," she shouted. He rushed to help, placing his hands on the structure to stabilize it. Together, they rerouted energy, redirecting the flow to secondary circuits. Sparks flew around them and the wind threatened to knock them off their feet, but they held firm. Hours passed in a blur of wind, sparks, and shouting. Leora's muscles burned, and exhaustion pressed against her, but she refused to give up. Humans endured, she reminded herself. They faced impossible odds and continued, no matter the cost. Finally, as the storm began to subside, the turbines stabilized. The warning lights faded and the energy flow returned to normal. Leora slumped against a panel, breathing heavily, covered in dust and sweat. Corin stood beside her, silent, his eyes scanning the horizon for any remaining threats. "You endure even when the planet fights you," Corin said quietly. "This is human strength." Leora smiled weakly, her body aching but her spirit soaring. "We don't give up," she said. "Even when it hurts, even when everything seems impossible." Corin's expression softened. Patience, he realized, was not enough. Humans earned respect through effort, persistence, and courage. Leora had shown him that again and again. As night fell, the colony's lights glowed steadily across the plains. The turbines hummed reliably, powered by the ancient energy integrated with Leora's careful engineering. The air systems were stable, the energy network secure, and the colony was safe, for now. But the planet had more challenges in store. Leora knew that tomorrow would bring new tests, environmental hazards, resource shortages, and unpredictable storms. Yet she also knew humans had something few species possessed: the ability to endure, adapt, and rise above. Corin and Leora walked across the plains to the main colony station, their shadows stretching long in the moonlight. For the first time, the Tarkin warrior truly believed that humans were more than just fragile creatures. They were resilient, inventive, and courageous. At the colony station, the settlers gathered to see the restored turbines. They cheered as lights blinked on and the hum of energy filled the air. Leora felt a surge of pride. She had faced danger, pain, and exhaustion, and survived. But more than that, she had shown that humans could face impossible odds and succeed. Corin watched the humans, studying their interactions, their determination, and their creativity. "They are remarkable," he murmured, "fragile yet unstoppable." Leora leaned against a railing, her body trembling with fatigue. Corin approached her quietly. "Tomorrow," he said, "we may face something even greater. The planet is not done testing us." "I know," Leora replied, "but we'll rise above it. We always do." Corin nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "And humans endure, even when it hurts. They try again." The twin moons rose over the red plains, casting silver light across the colony. The wind whispered through the turbines, carrying the faint hum of energy from the ancient ruins integrated into the system. Leora watched the horizon, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the thrill of achievement. Humans were fragile. Humans were tested. But humans endured. And Corrin, the once distrustful Tarkin warrior, now believed it wholeheartedly. For the first time, he felt that humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, fighters, and builders of a future even the harshest planet could not deny. Leora whispered softly into the night air, almost to herself. "It hurts, but we'll try again tomorrow." Corrin allowed a small nod. Patience had changed into admiration. Humans, he realized, were unstoppable not because of strength alone, but because of determination, courage, and the relentless will to rise above any challenge. And tonight, as the storm subsided and the turbines hummed steadily, the planet itself seemed to acknowledge their triumph. Leora's eyes sparkled with determination. Tomorrow would bring more trials, but for the first time she felt ready. Humans were resilient. Humans were inventive. Humans endured. And together she and Corrin would face whatever the planet had in store. The colony woke to a strange quiet. The red plains, usually battered by winds and dust, were calm, almost eerily still. Leora stood at the edge of the northern turbine station, staring at the horizon. The turbines hummed steadily, powered by the ancient energy she and Corrin had integrated. Yet a deep feeling in her chest told her that the planet was not finished testing them. Corrin approached, his long shadow stretching across the dust. "The calm is deceptive," he said. "The land will challenge you again, human." "I know," Leora replied, tightening her tool belt. "But we are ready. We've come this far. We can face anything." The two of them began inspecting the turbines and energy conduits. Each connection, each panel was crucial. One weak link could undo all their work. Leora's hands moved with practiced precision, checking for overheating, misaligned conduits, or structural weaknesses. Corrin stood nearby, alert for environmental threats, scanning the plains for movement. Hours passed. The sun climbed high, casting long shadows over the colony. Leora felt her strength waning, but she ignored the fatigue. Humans endured, she reminded herself. They faced impossible odds and continued, no matter the cost. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the colony. Leora's heart leapt into her throat. The energy system detected a surge from the southern turbines. Sparks flickered from a conduit and the main control panels began blinking red. "Corrin," she shouted. The Tarkin warrior sprinted beside her. "What is happening?" "The southern conduits are overloading," Leora explained, her mind racing. "The energy from the ruins, it's destabilizing because of the storm last night. We need to reroute it immediately." Without hesitation, they raced to the southern turbines. The wind had begun to pick up again, swirling dust into clouds that reduced visibility. Leora guided Corrin through the hazards while simultaneously recalculating energy flows. She worked quickly, opening manual valves and rerouting conduits. Corrin held panels steady and braced machinery against the sudden gusts. The surge was stronger than anything they had faced before. Sparks leapt dangerously, arcs of energy danced across the floor, and the turbines groaned under the pressure. Leora's hands burned as she worked on the control panels. Pain shot up her arms from minor burns and scratches, but she refused to stop. "You endure," Corrin said, his voice calm despite the chaos. "Even when the land fights you, you persist." "I have to," Leora shouted back. "For the colony, for everyone counting on us." Together, they guided the energy through secondary conduits, stabilizing the flow just as the southern turbines reached critical overload. Sparks fizzled, and the alarms went silent. The turbines hummed steadily once more, energy flowing smoothly through the colony's network. Leora slumped against a panel, exhausted, sweat and dust streaking her face. Corrin stood beside her, silent, his gaze scanning the horizon. The storm had passed, leaving a calm that felt almost victorious. You endure, human, Corin said quietly. Even when everything could break you, you rise. This is not just strength, it is willpower. Leora smiled weakly. We endure because we must. Humans survive, adapt, and find solutions. That's how we thrive, no matter the odds. For a long moment the two stood in silence, watching the turbines hum steadily. The colony was safe, at least for now. But the planet was unpredictable, and tomorrow could bring new dangers. Yet Leora felt a confidence she had never known before. Humans had faced storms, ancient technology, and environmental hazards, and they had prevailed. The next challenge came sooner than expected. As they checked the eastern energy grid, the ground trembled beneath them. Dust and small rocks rattled the station, and Leora's eyes widened. A massive quake was sweeping across the plains. "Corin, the eastern conduits," she shouted. He grabbed her arm. "We must act quickly. If the conduits fail, the entire network collapses." Leora sprang into action, moving faster than she thought possible. She climbed the turbine supports, her fingers gripping metal as she adjusted unstable conduits. Sparks flew dangerously close, but she focused, guided by logic and instinct. Corin stabilized the structure from below, bracing panels and supporting weakened sections. The quake's tremors shook the station violently, threatening to topple equipment. Leora's breath came in short gasps, her body screaming from exhaustion, but she refused to stop. Humans endured, she reminded herself, even when the pain was almost unbearable. Step by step, they stabilized the conduits. Energy flowed smoothly, alarms ceased, and the turbines roared reliably. Leora collapsed to the ground, her chest heaving. Corin crouched beside her, eyes scanning the plains. "You endure even when the planet itself fights you," he said. "Humans are remarkable." Leora smiled faintly, tears of fatigue and triumph in her eyes. "We endure because we care, because giving up is not an option." For the first time, Corin felt a deep respect for humans. They were not just survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and fighters. Their fragility was deceptive. Beneath it lay a determination and courage that no planet, no storm, no ancient technology could crush. As the day faded into night, the colony's lights shone steadily across the plains. Leora and Corin stood atop the northern turbine platform, looking out over the thriving settlement. The turbines hummed, the energy conduits glowed softly, and the air systems ran smoothly. "We did it," Leora whispered. "The colony is safe." Corin nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "Not just safe, stronger than ever. Humans endure, adapt, and rise above. They are capable of things few others can imagine." The twin moons rose above the horizon, casting silver light across the red plains. Leora felt a sense of peace, tempered by exhaustion. The colony had survived impossible odds, thanks to the combination of human ingenuity and Corin's guidance. Together they had faced storms, earthquakes, ancient technology, and environmental hazards, and emerged victorious. But more than survival, Leora realized, the greatest achievement was trust. The alliance between human and Tarkin had strengthened, born from shared effort, courage, and persistence. Corin's patience, once cautious and skeptical, had transformed into respect and admiration. "You have changed my view, human," Corin said quietly. "Patience is not enough. Humans earn respect through effort, courage, and the will to try again." Leora smiled faintly. "That's what we do. Even when it hurts, we try again." As they descended from the turbine platform, the settlers gathered to celebrate. Lights blinked in rhythm with the turbines signaling stability. Cheers echoed across the plains, a testament to human endurance and ingenuity. Leora's heart swelled with pride. They had faced impossible odds and won. Corin walked beside her silently, his mind full of new understanding. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but unstoppable when determined. Their creativity, courage, and persistence had saved the colony. And for the first time, he truly believed that humans could rise above any challenge. That night, under the twin moons, Leora sat atop a ridge overlooking the colony. The turbines hummed softly, the ancient energy flowing through them steadily. She could feel the heartbeat of the planet beneath her feet, a pulse of possibility and hope. Corin joined her, standing silently. You endure, human. Even when every obstacle seems insurmountable, you rise again. Leora looked at him, exhausted but triumphant. We endure because we must, because giving up is never an option. We are humans, we survive, we adapt, we rise. The wind whispered across the red plains, carrying the scent of dust and metal. The colony lay safe and thriving, a symbol of human ingenuity and perseverance. And for Corin, watching the small but determined human beside him, patience had transformed into admiration. Humans were not just fragile survivors, they were builders, thinkers, and fighters. And as the twin moons shone over the red plains, Leora whispered softly to herself, almost as a promise, "It hurts, but we will try again tomorrow, and the day after that, always." Corin nodded, silently acknowledging her words. The trials of the planet had revealed one undeniable truth. Humans endure, they adapt, they rise. And when all else fails, they try again, undaunted, unbroken, unstoppable. For the colony, for the planet, and for the future that was more than enough. The red plains stretched endlessly before them, wild and untamed. But Leora and Corin, human and Tarkin, stood ready. Whatever the planet threw at them next, they would face it together, with courage, ingenuity, and relentless determination. And in that moment both knew. The human spirit, fragile though it might appear, was unstoppable.